I felt more comfortable with my left hand there than I did my right. Then once I got started making a few, I just kept going. And some night it goes in, some night it don't. That night it happened to work out. But if I remember correctly, we won that game in overtime by like 1 point. So, you know, I probably should have shot with my right hand the whole game.
That was Larry Bird, the living, breathing urban legend, speaking candidly about a game in 1986 when he shot 21 field goals with his left hand because he could. "I'm saving my right hand for the Lakers," he told the media. This summer, NBA Top Shot had the fortune of working directly with Larry Bird to curate the greatest hits of his 13-year career. Along the way, we decided who better to provide context about these plays and performances than the man himself. The following conversation covers a number of unforgettable moments, some of which already exist in the NBA Top Shot library. The rest, well, we'll have to wait and see.
I didn't really hear all the talk about me, whether I could play in the NBA or whether I couldn't. I knew 3 days during the summer when I played against some of the better players we had on our team in rookie free agent camp that I wasn't going to have very many problems playing in this league. So it didn't take me long to figure it out that what I needed to do is learn how to win basketball games. Before I got there, I think the Celtics won 28 or 29 games that previous year, and my goal was to win as many as I possibly could, help them get to where they haven't been in a while, and that was my whole focus.
Jump forward to your second year, game one of the NBA Finals. I want to talk specifically about the putback. Do you remember the putback off your own miss?
Yeah, I do remember that.
So Red Auerbach called this the greatest play he'd ever seen, and he called you a player of destiny at the time. And your response, which I love, is, "Red says so much I don't even listen to him. I just let it run in one ear and out the other." And I'm just curious, what did it mean to have that kind of relationship and support from him?
Oh, it meant everything. Red Auerbach could be the greatest GM ever was, president of any sport. Looked up to him. We all looked up to him. Red never missed a practice. He didn't go on a lot of road games, which I don't blame him because he's been doing that his whole life, but he was there every home game. He meant the world to all of us, and to have him to say something like that is just showing a lot of respect. Not only to me, but I try to give as much respect back because he was beloved and he meant everything to us. Red's seen a lot of basketball games in his life, and sometimes you have a tendency in the moment to forget about the other ones. But it was a good play. It was a horrible shot I missed, but I was able to gather it and in the air, switch hands, and get it to my left hand and make it. Just so happened to be in a big game, game one of the 1981 finals against Houston Rockets. That I think that's why it played up with so much hype. But still, it's something that I always did back then, was always follow my shot, because the guy that's shooting the ball knows whether he's going to make it or miss it most of the time, whether it's going to be short, long, left, or right. And when I released the ball that day, it was way off to the right, and I was just trying to chase it down.
That seems like the type of read you perfect, shooting alone in a driveway, just reading the ball off the rim. I love that. You mentioned that this series in your book, and playing against Moses Malone, it gave you a new appreciation for rebounding. Do you recall the specifics about that?
Well, it's always a very good rebounder in high school and college. I think in college I averaged like 14, in high school I averaged 20. So I was always able to rebound, always had the ability to seek out the ball and go get it. But when you play against guys like Moses Malone and some of the top rebounders in the league, the one thing that they always have a second jump. I never had the second jump, but they could keep the ball live and tip it to themselves or take it off the bank board or off the rim and get that second jump to get it. And I was always amazed how he's able to not only use his body, but his strength and his legs to get in a position to rebound.
Now, you mentioned this already, but when in your first season you had the biggest single season turnaround in wins, and then a title in your second. You're just 24 years old right now, a sophomore. And, hindsight, we know you guys have your own dynasty. But what was it like sort of continuing that, that storied legacy, that era of dominance for the Celtics? Did you appreciate that at the time?
Not before I got there, but after I got there, I really learned about what it was all about. When I played in the Garden, every game I went to, the same people in the same spots for 13 years, you know. So they've been there forever. They knew the game. They love the game of basketball. But playing for the Boston Celtics was the highlight of my whole life. Played a lot of. I enjoyed my time in Terre Haute, Indiana State. We did something incredible there, but playing at a high level and doing it for a living was the highlight of my career. And it happened to be in Boston, which is a city that I respect and love, and the best time of my life.
You joined a team that had some very established players like Dave Cullins and Tiny Archibald. What was playing with those guys like?
It's always great to play with great players. It makes the game a lot easier. But the one thing that we did my second year, we picked up Robert Parrish and Kevin McHale. Now, we didn't know how they was going to fit in, but they fit in very nicely. And after we won the championship in '81, I feel like we had a good enough team where we could start a destiny and win a lot of championships. Unfortunately, there for 3 years we didn't do much, but from '84 on, we played pretty well.
Okay. Let's jump forward. I want to jump all the way forward to the '84-'85 season. And this is kind of a fun one. On March 12th, 60-point game against the Hawks. You almost didn't play this game. Do you remember why?
Yeah, I remember every bit of it. I had a lot of problems with my hamstrings before that game. When we went to New Orleans I think it was on a Sunday or Monday, the day of the game, I got up and I couldn't hardly move. And the reason for that is I ran in a 5-mile race. It was either on that Sunday or Saturday back home. Once a year, we had this run right in the middle of the season, and I always loved to go outdoors and run, and I always participated in it. But for some reason this time my hamstrings got real tight. And before the game, I was over an hour and a half before the game, doing everything I could to get loose. And finally, right before game time, they felt really good and played and shot the ball extremely well that night.
And the shots that you hit down the stretch are superhuman. You know, contested fallaways when poor Dominique Wilkins, leaners that called off 4-point play. What do you remember about that final quarter? And did you know that when did you know that this was more than just a good shooting night, that the record was, within reach?
Well, Kevin McHale broke the all-time record a couple of weeks before that and against Detroit Pistons, and I did not want him to go out of the game. There's a couple minutes left, and I told him to stay in, go for 60, and that's a number in my head that I wanted him to get. He ended up with 56, so a couple weeks later, when we were playing in New Orleans, and people always say, well, how'd you know how many points you had? Well, you didn't have to keep track of them. You never do. You just play the game. But the announcer let me know every time I scored. So he'd go 48, 50, 52, and when it got to that with like 3 or 4 minutes to go, I thought I might as well go ahead and try to get 60, and that's what I did.
I love that. Now you mentioned specifically the Kevin McHale record a few days prior. I'm just curious, how did you two, stars with very different personalities, how did you push each other to be better? Well,
I think it's just the competition of practice every day. But we didn't go against one another. When Kevin became a starter, we was always on the same team. But before that, he was our sixth man, came off the bench. I'd play against him every day. And what we do, we played hard. We practiced hard. We scrimmaged a lot. And we try to make each other better. That's just the nature of the business, because if you go into practice, you want to play at a high level, or you really get nothing out of it. So we did our best to play hard every day and then try to learn one another's game. And it was so easy to play with Kevin because he had pretty good hands and he always got great positions. So and he was 7 foot, so it's easy to get the ball to him in the right spots.
Now, during this game, you had the Hawks in pieces on the bench. I'm curious from your vantage point, what were they saying and doing?
I have no idea. You don't watch that stuff during the game. I didn't know about it until, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks after people were talking about it. But later on, somebody showed me a video of it, and we've done the same thing. I remember Andrew Toney in big games from Philadelphia come in and start making crazy shots, and or Vinny, the microwave. We don't fall off the bench like that, but we sit there and go, man, this is unbelievable. What are you going to do to stop him? And so I've been on both sides of it.
And you mentioned specifically, again, in your book, and you sort of said right after the 60-point game, one that you're maybe more personally proud of is the one where you had a triple-double with 9 steals. I don't even think you played in the fourth quarter at all.
Well, that was in Utah, and they had a real good team, and And if I'm correct, I think we played the Lakers the day before, and we always seemed like Utah the next night, which is always tough after a game against the Lakers to come in and stay on that high. But that game, everything was clicking, and it seemed like they were just throwing me the ball all the time. I always had it in my hands, and put a lot of numbers up, but numbers don't mean nothing. The win was more important. It's always good to reflect back like today and say, yeah, that's right, I did get 9 steals and had a triple-double. But getting a quadruple-double meant nothing to me. I mean, really, you go into a game and when you're up by 25, 30 points, just for a steal, makes no sense to me. I've done enough damage already.
Fast forward to the next season, February 8th, it's All-Star Weekend, and you're participating in the very first three-point contest as a kid. From the moment that you found out that you would be participating in the contest, what did you do to prepare? This is uncharted
Well,
territory.
yeah, it is uncharted because we never shot a lot of threes, and I never practiced them. I mean, every once in a while I go out there with Danny Ainge and we'd shoot a few, but I didn't really know if I wanted to be in the three-point contest until a couple of my teammates told me I wouldn't win it anyway. So then I had to go out and prove to them that I could win the thing. I'm a very confident player. The one thing I didn't know if I could do it. You had 25 balls and you had time. You had to get them up. Never done anything like that before. So me and Danny started practicing a little bit, and next thing you know, we're out there playing and shooting, and the more rounds you go through, the more confidence you got. There was never a time where I thought I couldn't win the competition. There's always a time where if the ball was flowing right, the more I shot it, the better I got. But my whole mentality of that was if I got through the first round, I was going to win.
Now, one advantage that you had versus some of the other players in the contest was a little bit extra experience, shooting under pressure. And you seem to have fun with that, breaking the ice in the locker room with the now mythical line. So who's coming in second? What do you remember about that exchange?
Well, it wasn't a big deal. It's just that it's a very somber locker room. Nobody was saying anything because we compete against each other, mostly on a nightly basis. And there's not a lot of rapport going back and forth, but pretty quiet. Guys, a little nervous. A lot of the guys that was in the competition were great shooters, but they were bench players. They didn't play maybe 12, 10 minutes a game. So it's a whole different feeling when you get out there because when you're shooting that basketball and there's 20,000 people in the arena, there's 40,000 sets of eyes on you. It's a little different. And it's just you. So I knew they was under a lot of duress anyway. So I said it just to break the ice, but I didn't think it would ever leak out of there. But truthfully, I meant it. I mean, I knew I was probably going to win the contest.
Casey Jones said, Larry has that Muhammad Ali kind of approach. He gets to you in your mind before the fight begins. By the time you step in the ring, you're 40 points down. And I'm just curious, where did this sort of playful but unwavering confidence come from for you personally?
Well, my confidence came from me shooting basketball by myself for hours upon hours. I mean, it's not, I didn't pick up a ball on a Saturday and decide I was going to score 40 a game. I mean, that preparation came way before that. So I played a lot of basketball in my life and did a lot of shooting and from every angle, from every position. Then once I grew, be 6'9", the game became a lot easier. But I put my time in, so I knew I put more time in than anybody else. And I had skills that other people didn't have, so I had a lot of confidence in whatever I did out there on the basketball court.
Would you say, was there a comparable player that would talk on the court like you would? Who would you say the greatest trash talker is?
Well, I mean, everybody talks about this trash talking stuff, but, it's a little bit overblowing. I mean, I said some things, but the talk didn't go on and on and on. You had to play the game. But some guys would say things. Guys walk up to you when you're on the free throw line and walk by and say something. But mine wasn't doing anything to disrespect people. Sometimes you get into it with players and you say things, but more was just fun. Dominic Wilkins is a guy that I respect more than anybody I ever played against. And I talked to Dominic just being him. Nobody knew we was talking. And what a great player. I love to compete against him. But he used to just laugh at me, which I thought was pretty cool.
Now changing speeds a little bit. You didn't shoot a lot of threes during this era. No one really did, but you were one of the first to flourish there, starting around in the mid-'80s. When did you start seriously working on your range?
Well, I never did. Like I said earlier, I never did practice a three-point shot much. The one thing that I remember most about the three-point shot was you could use it to your team's advantage at the end of games, to ice games, deflate other teams. But I can also remember in the mid-'80s, Casey Jones was the coach, and he came in the locker room for the game and told us we shoot too many threes. And we probably shot maybe 8 or 9 the game before. Well, we're playing New York, and the ball goes up, and Robert tips it out. Danny Ainge picks it up and fires up a 3, first shot of the game. And I'm going, well, I guess that's out the window. But, there wasn't a mentality that we had to shoot 33s a game like they are now. I mean, I know coaches in our league like to shoot 50 a game. But back then, not with the Celtics, we were a big team. We liked to pound ball inside and go inside and out, So the three-point shot wasn't something that, we worried about. If you had it, you take it, but most of the time we threw it inside.
Now, fast forwarding just a week, it's February 14th, you're playing against the Blazers, and you're scoring 47 points. And you're especially using your left hand.
Oh.
What compelled you to shoot so many field goals with your left in that game in particular?
I don't know. I had a good left hand around the basket, and they always, if you watch, if I remember the game correctly, they were forcing me left to help, and they wasn't getting there quick enough. So I had shots around 5-6 foot with my left hand. I felt more comfortable with my left hand there than I did my right. Then once I got started making a few, I just kept going, and some night it goes in, some night it don't. That night it happened to work out, but. If I remember correctly, we won that game in overtime by like 1 point. So, probably shot with my right hand the whole game.
Now, Jackie McMullen wrote in the book With You in Magic that the Celtics at this time were young, loose, cocky, and together.
Yeah.
Nowadays, as we look back at that 85-86 team, as one of the best in league history.
Right.
What was the mood on that team compared even to Celtics teams prior?
I played on some really good teams, but nothing quite like that one. Bill Walton made a lot of difference on that team. Jerry Sistine coming in from Indiana as a backup point guard. Scotty Webman was there in '84, but he was a top player for us off our bench. Our bench was just as good as the starters, I thought. But Bill Walton was the key. Bill came in and coming off a lot of injuries for a lot of years, felt relatively healthy. And we felt if we could keep him on the court 10 or 15 minutes a game, we're probably going to win a championship. It all came down to whether we was going to be healthy or not. And we stayed pretty healthy. I think Bill played in 80 games that year, and we just felt that nobody could beat us, not in a 7-game series.
Now fast forward to June 8, 1986. It's Game 6. So this is following a heated Game 5, the Ralph Sampson incident, but the Boston crowd in Game 6 was intense.
Yeah.
And how would you describe Celtics fans and the environment that they created?
Well, it depends on what game. I played there on Sundays at noon, and I always said they should have went to church instead of coming to the game because it sounded like we were playing in the church. But then I fire them up, and here they come, So I can remember Bill Walton. I got there real early, and I got my stuff done, and Bill Walton came in the locker room. He goes, them fans want blood, and they don't care whose it is. And, I lived that life for 13 years, and that was Bill's first year. So I knew I know them Boston fans. They want them championships, and they want it in the fashion that we gave it to them. They want a big lead. They want to have fun. They don't want to sit on their hands. They want to get up and go, and they're cocky just like their team was.
Now you said that you probably concentrated and prepared more for this particular game than any other. And I'm curious, how is this different than other?
I don't think I prepared. I think we were prepared as a team. After what you said happened in Game 5, we just had to let that go and concentrate on what we had to get done in Game 6. We already lost 2 games to them, which very talented team, but we were the superior team. They were young, and I didn't think they could ever win 2 games. But what happened in Game 5 spilled over to Game 6. Now it was up to us to go out as a veteran team that's been there before and play like we've been there before. And that's why our focus had to be solely on what we can do as a team, and that's what we did.
And you were contributing, across the board. It's almost like a defensive masterclass that you put on in that game.
Well, I mean, I was told 2 or 3 times to get out of the zone defense I was in, but we were all over the court. It was a hype game. It was one of them games where you had all this energy. You just want to keep going and going and going, and it seemed like everybody was in the right place at the right time, and the ball was moving really well, and guys were hitting shots. So I think it was a game that not only was I prepared to play in, but everybody was ready to go.
And one shot in particular that you mentioned in the book that I love to watch was that three-pointer from the corner in the fourth quarter. Bill kind of gets in your way and you zigzag on the baseline.
Well, when I came out of that, I knew the clock was down, but I didn't know it was down that far. I got to the corner wanting him to go post up, but when I got there, out of the corner of my eye, I seen the shot clock on the other end. So when I got out there, I just turned and shot it. It was all really in the flow of the game. But, when you do that, you hope they go in. But if we missed it, it wasn't a big deal. And we were moving well. We were playing well. We sort of had them on their heels at that time. They were down probably 20-some points, and we were just playing the way we played.
Now let's go to the next season. I want to talk specifically May 26, 1987. It's Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals. The steal, the assist to Dennis Johnson. You've got Rick Mahorn guarding you.
It's what I wanted.
What's your first look? What are you looking for?
Well, he's playing me drive it, playing me go left, and I had an opportunity to shoot a jump shot, but in that situation, if you can get open's one thing, but if you think you can beat the guy off the dribble and get in there and maybe try to make contact or make a play, but when I drove in there, everything closed down, and when I went up, the shot was blocked. I didn't know who blocked it, and went out of bounds. And next time I see Isaiah the referee's got the ball, and I'm on the floor. And I went back to a player, and I seen Lambier going to the baseline, get the ball. And I thought a timeout was coming because I knew they had a timeout left. They could advance the ball. But Isaiah gets it and throws a lob pass. And I think Jerry Sisson was on him, covering him, and Isaiah had to throw it up a little bit. And he did. And that ball seemed like it just stayed in the air. And somehow I got there and got my fingertips on it and popped it back to myself. And out of the corner of my eye, I seen a white jersey. And I knew it was DJ. It had to be DJ. And I had a little shot there I could have took, but I kick it off to DJ, and he lays it up and in. And I think there's 1 second left on the time, and we end up winning the game. It's just a reaction play, like I told you earlier. Sometimes you do things, you just do it because you've done it so many times. I'm not saying I made a steal like that thousands of times, but I reacted that way thousands of times. And I'm just lucky enough to get my fingertips on the ball.
And of course, much was said about DJ's uncanny ability
Right.
to hit you all the time. What about that relationship with the two of you made you so in sync together?
I don't know, but obviously we were more in sync than anybody ever played with. Somehow he could read what I was thinking. There's a lot of times I'd be looking at him, he'd have the ball at the top of the key. He'd just throw it behind the defense's ear, and I knew he was going to throw it, and just pick and roll plays or lob over tops. When I was in the post, how he got it to me. We had an uncanny connection that I never had with anybody else. And but when I stole that ball, I knew that was him cutting down the lane without even knowing who it was.
And now, in general, in this playoff run, you're a banged-up team, and you're dragging yourselves back to the finals. What did this playoff run and that resiliency sort of say about the personalities of the players?
Yeah, in '87 I was the healthiest one on the roster. That's not saying much. I felt pretty good. I know Robert had ankle injuries, and Kevin broke his foot in that series. I don't know if it was the Lakers series or the one before it, but he was trying to play. Danny had a hip problem, and just to get to the finals, it made us feel good. We didn't win it, but we got there. And if somehow a miracle happened, we could have pulled it off. But it was a gratifying season, though we didn't win it. Usually when you lose, you always say, well, it's a bad year, but not there. We fought, scrapped, did everything we could to get back there and try to win it, and we did. And just unfortunately, we came up short.
I love that. So that was the last of the plays that I wanted to get into, and I just sort of more generically, I was just curious. The game has obviously evolved, so much over the years. But I'm curious, are there any aspects of that 80s basketball that you personally miss?
Well, the inside game. I like the game that's played now. I mean, I respect the players. We had our run, and this is their time, and this is how they like to play their game, and it's like they like to be coached this way. I understand all that, but I'm glad I played in the 80s because it was more that you could feel and hold and grab, and the ball was pounded inside. And sometimes it'd be low in scoring games, but sometimes you score 130 points, so you didn't know going in what kind of game it was going to be. So I enjoyed the 80s, but I like to watch the game now. I like to see how it's played. A lot of people complain, but there's too many threes. I can remember a number of years ago, I was worried about the small guards. When you see Magic Johnson come in at 6'9", and the taller guards, 6'6", 6'7", coming in, I was wondering where the 6'3" guys and 6'2" guys, where their place in our game was going to be. Well, all of a sudden the three-point line opened up, and now where's the big man going to be? Everybody's going smaller.
And the last question for my part here is, for new fans that are coming up and are just sort of getting that first taste back into your era, what do you want them to know about your legacy, the Celtics' legacy, the generation's legacy?
Yeah, if you look at the history of the game, every decade's different. The game changes. They always try to compare players now to back in the 80s and 70s, and which you cannot do. It's a whole different ball game. They talk about the private jets, the no back-to-backs, no 4 and 5s. I can remember one season we played 3 in a row. Well, we were young. We could do that. But you even look back further than me. Guys were on trains for days. They played double hitters on Saturdays. Not 2 games one day, but one team would play and they play the next one, or the next night, or the night game. But the game's changed so much, and the preparation for games as far as health, rest, it's so much different than it was in the 80s and even in the 50s. It's better. I think they're looking out for the players' health a lot more, and I think it's only going to get stronger. And I'm happy to be a small part of all of it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.